everyone. I am proud to be here with leaders from across the Baltimore region on this historic occasion. Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski, proud to be joined by many of our amazing legislators and leaders from across the Baltimore region and the state. I first want to thank my friend, Mayor Brandon Scott. Since taking office, Mayor Scott has been an active and a willing partner in tackling our regional challenges, including why we're here today. And I want to thank him again for his forward-thinking approach. Thank you, my friend. Thank you as well to Acting MDE Secretary Serena McElween for supporting us on behalf of Governor Moore's administration today. In our work, we're also grateful to have the support of Senate President Bill Ferguson and the pride of Baltimore County, Speaker Adrian Jones. I also want to personally thank the sponsors of today's legislation, State Senator Jill Carter, State Senator Charles Sydnor, and delegates Eric Ebersol and Stephanie Smith. Today's announcement is about building a better future for all of our residents. We're here today to demonstrate that our shared belief in regional solutions to regional challenges. And as I've said many times before, our residents don't live their lives within the confines of jurisdictional boundaries. We best serve all our constituents and our entire region when we work together. There's perhaps no issue that ties us together more than our shared drinking and sanitary sewer systems, two of the most fundamental services that we provide to our residents. For decades, Baltimore City and Baltimore County have been served by a shared water and wastewater utility that are owned and operated by the City of Baltimore, managed by an agreement dating back to 1972. This agreement is older than the mayor and myself and does not reflect the incredible growth we've seen across our region since it was put in place nearly a half-century ago. Today, this shared infrastructure serves 1.8 million residents across Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and surrounding jurisdictions. And it's clear that it's time to bring its operations and oversight fully into the 21st century. Recognizing the need for action back in 2021, we joined our colleagues in the city to release a comprehensive third-party review that examined our existing operations, identified opportunities for improvement, and considered solutions that could help ensure the long-term success of these systems. I'd like to thank County Administrative Officer Stacy Rogers and Baltimore County's DPWT Director, DeAndrea Walker, for leading the county's efforts along with the city counterparts to move this project forward. That study identified a number of challenges around customer billing, limited regional coordination, and systematic limitations for long-term planning and capital improvements. It concluded our jurisdiction should convene a diverse stakeholder group to explore regional solutions in order to help standardize high-quality water services across the region, improve the overall customer service experience, and lower shared costs. I'm excited that we are here to do precisely that. Today we're announcing the next step in charting a shared vision with state legislation, which will form the Task Force on Baltimore Regional Water and Wastewater. The task force will review all the work done to date and make recommendations to modernize the governance of our region's water and wastewater utilities so that we can improve everything from management, capital planning, billing and rate stability, and so much more. Charting a shared vision for a modern, efficient, and equitable system, allowing us to be better prepared to serve our residents for decades to come. This once-in-a-generation effort is the result of committed partners like Mayor Scott, who, like me, inherited these challenges, as well as our partners in the General Assembly and the Moore administration, who are devoting their time, energy, and leadership to ensure its success. While we know that we cannot fully address these decades-old challenges overnight, I am so encouraged by this announcement and what it means that we are doing it together. Again, I want to thank our state legislators for their leadership on this issue and to Mayor Scott for serving as a thoughtful and dedicated partner in this important effort. We're hopeful and we expect that this legislation is the first of many exciting milestones as we continue together meeting the evolving needs of our region for the 21st century and beyond. With that, I will turn things over to Mayor Scott for additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I also want to acknowledge our partners, my partner, the county executive, who has been a true partner and true friend to the city of Baltimore, acting secretary for the Maryland Department of Environment, Secretary McElwain, my state Senate delegation chair, Jill Carter. She actually represents my parents, so she has a tough job there. The county's chair, State Senator Charles Sidnor, who also knows my family very well, lived next door to them for quite some time, so he had a tough time growing up too. My delegate, Delegate Stephanie Smith, Delegate Ebersol, who this is the second time in a month that he, the county executive, and I have shared a microphone, and my delegate, Stephanie Smith, who leads that work, and our state Senator Mary Washington, who represents both Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And I want to acknowledge the entire team that we have at the Baltimore City Department of Public Works, who have been working on this issue with the county administrator, our former city administrator, Chris Jordan, our current deputy city administrator, Simone, Johnson is doing great work on this. You heard from the county executives, as we often say, many things that he and I are dealing with are older than us, these agreements. This water system was first established in the mid-19th century when the city had around 250,000 residents and has since undergone a vast expansion to serving the $1.8 million customers that you heard the county executive talk about today. Today's utility includes the 3 reservoirs containing 86 billion gallons of water, 3 water treatment plants, 2 wastewater treatment plants, and multiple pumping stations to serve the growing needs of the Baltimore region. These treatment plants combined produce 360 million gallons of drinking water each day. Our wastewater treatment plants collect and treat an average flow of 200 million gallons of wastewater daily through a complex system of 3,100 miles of sanitary mains. We have been proud to diligently serve as the Baltimore region's water supplier for all of these years, but we are at a pivotal moment in the history where we need to determine what the future needs of our region will look like and how to best address those needs through the utility. We are here today to announce historic legislation that we have developed jointly together to establish a regional water governance task force. Together, we are securing a brighter future for all of our residents by ensuring efficient, equitable, and sustainable delivery of this essential service. And let me be clear about this again, that water is a human right, and simply providing access to water and sewer services isn't enough. It is our obligation to put in place legislation that gives our residents access to long-term quality service while protecting one of their most basic needs. The creation of this task force is the first step in modernizing the governance of water and wastewater utilities throughout Greater Baltimore. Its recommendations will ultimately improve the efficiency, ensure equity, and lead to better customer experience for residents throughout our great region. There is no reason why we should be operating from a system implemented in the 70s in the year 2023. The county executive and I didn't create that. Our great delegation didn't create that. Our governor, who's just a few weeks on the job, didn't create that. But we are going to work now to solve that issue. The dynamic of our state has shifted, and so has our overall population and infrastructure needs. And we need a system that reflects those trends and exists in the 21st century. In Baltimore, we are currently in the process of upgrading archaic and outdated structures and systems that we have in place, and we are proud to stand in solidarity and partnership with our county partners, as well as our local and state delegations, because this is a priority for us all. As leaders, it is our duty to ensure that everyone has fair, affordable, and equitable access to clean water. And that is our ultimate goal for when this task force brings its recommendations back to Annapolis next January. I believe that there is strength in numbers, and the folks you see here today came all the way to Annapolis from the county and the city. If you're myself, the folks who work here each and every day to uplift this legislation, because the sustainability of our communities and the 1.8 million customers we serve is at stake. There is power in partnership, and the formation of this task force is a key step to making sure that we continue to move that way. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the support from the Senate President, the Speaker, all of the folks who have stepped up to say this is the right approach for us to take. And now I will turn it over to our Acting MDE Secretary, Secretary McElwain. Thank you very much.
Well, it's wonderful to be here and to see you all today and to talk about this important partnership initiative. The Maryland Department of the Environment believes this proposed collaboration between jurisdictions is a big step. It's a big step forward to ensuring that the region's drinking water and wastewater facilities maintain compliance with their permits and our environmental laws. This is critical for public health and the protection of our waters that we love so much in Maryland. The task force is the first step in a regional partnership to prioritize safe drinking water and healthy environments for all, and for all the people in Baltimore City and in Baltimore County. Back River and Patapsco play a real critical role in protecting public health and Marylanders and the Chesapeake Bay watershed. The task force that was announced today, it's an exciting opportunity because together we will do lots of things to include modernize and strengthen the Baltimore metropolitan area's water and wastewater partnership, which is critical. It's also going to ensure, or better ensure, the protection of public health and the environment in the face of climate change. It will increase workforce for utilities and reach communities that are overburdened and underserved. MDE, I stand before you today to tell you that we are committed. We're committed to assisting Back River and Patapsco communities with funding, which is really critical to this partnership. But we're committed to funding for both completion of the capital projects and facility and equipment upgrades, as well as provide long-term resources for maintenance and operations. We continue to work with leadership in the mayor's office and the Baltimore City Department of Public Works to get the plants fully in compliance and resilient, that's the key word, and any other disruptions that may happen in the future. So we're looking forward to working with all of you through this enhanced collaboration and partnership. I would now like to welcome Senator Jill Carter, Maryland's 41st District State Senator and the People's Champion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So I'm excited to champion this much needed, long overdue legislation to ensure the quality water for our residents, but also equity. For far too long, too many Baltimore residents have suffered high bills, but poor quality water. It's no secret our issues, our long-standing issues with lead and other toxins in our water. And so this is a step in the right direction to modernize that. I'm particularly also excited for the 41st District with respect to the beauty of Lake Ashburton, which has been undergoing a project to ensure water filtration, safe water for our residents for far too long. And I'm hoping that that's one area that this legislation will help. And so I'm all in, and I'm excited for the people of Baltimore City and County, and I expect great and rapid results. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to say this is certainly a bipartisan bill. I've seen Senator Salling, Delegate Long. I'd like to introduce Senator Heddleman is here, Senator Carter, and Senator Washington. She is what I was before redistricting, which is I call the epitome of regionalism. She now represents Baltimore City and Baltimore County, which is what I did when I was with the old 44th. So as has been stated, I believe water is the essence of life, and that clean drinking water and sanitation are essential to all of our lives. After having communities that I serve subjected to a 5-day boil advisory because of the E. coli contamination last September, I am pleased to stand with everyone that's up here and take this regional approach, which is just an initial step to address a pressing issue that we all have stakes in solving. To see Baltimore nationally mentioned in the same breath that we've mentioned places like Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi, certainly is unacceptable. I agree with the mayor that access and water is a human right. Safe drinking water and sanitation must be non-negotiable for our communities. This legislation establishes the Baltimore Regional Water and Wastewater Task Force, which will be charged with recommending a better governance model for us, thereby laying the foundation to address these water issues for our children and future generations not yet born. So I'm pleased to be one of the Senate sponsors and co-sponsoring it with Senator Jill Carter. And with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Delegate Smith.
Thank you. As we've heard from many that have spoken before me, water is life. It is something that residents of Baltimore County and Baltimore City shouldn't have to worry about. Is the water they're receiving safe? Is the bill affordable? Is the bill clear? Do we have the appropriate infrastructure to ensure that service delivery will be reliable in the years to come? I am so excited to have the leadership of the county executive and the mayor, along with not just colleagues, but actually friends from Baltimore County and Baltimore City, that will be putting forth this legislation. Because as we've heard from many of the prior speakers, the system we're experiencing, it predates most people that are before you. But I think that the challenge to us is not just to see the value of collaboration for the purposes of this task force, is to ensure that there's appropriate oversight at the result of the recommendations, so that 10, 15, 20, 30 years into the future, there's not another group of leaders that have to start from scratch in ensuring that we have proper accountability for the many constituents that we represent. So again, I'm honored to be here with friends and colleagues doing what needs to be done, and I just want to leave everyone with collaboration isn't just a good thing to do, it's the competent thing to do as a leader, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eric Ebersole, and I'm the chair of the Baltimore County delegation. I couldn't be more pleased that Baltimore County is here and stepping up with their partners. You know, historically, the city was the center of services, water and sewer included, back, as the mayor said, back to the 19th century. And we tried to grow in 1972 and come up with an arrangement between us, and it probably was a good one. I was there for it, by the way. They say they weren't, but I was. Okay, I was probably a little young to understand it, but not terribly so. But here we are in the 21st century, and the metro area has grown, and there are great responsibilities, and they fall on all of us. And so we must do our fair share to service partners on behalf of the entire shared metro area. And this process, this is the beginning of a renewed partnership between our jurisdictions for water and sewer. And I commend the county executive, Olszewski, and the mayor, Mayor Scott, for recognizing this and for asking the state delegation to step up and make it possible for them to do it. I'm looking forward to much greater service because we are working together, and that was what I'm hoping will happen, and I thank you very much. I'm the last, and so now you get to ask some questions, I believe. Oh, I want to point out that standing behind me is the vice chair of the Baltimore County delegation, Carl Jackson, who didn't get introduced earlier, and I'm pleased he came here to support.
We haven't had an opportunity to look at the bill. So what recommendations are you anticipating the task force will come up with, and why can't this happen without legislation?
Well, I think we're anticipating that the task force, Dave, is going to come up with how we should govern the system, how the system should look. We're not going into it dictating what the task force is going to do. And we thought this was the best way because when you don't make the mistakes of the past, when you put things in law that are things that people can see, they can hold you directly accountable for. So the county executive and I both thought this was the best way.
I have a question about billing. Senator Carter and Delegate Smith mentioned water billing. One of the most frustrating things for city and county residents is inaccurate bills, inflated bills. Even the governor had an issue with his bill. How do you think that this task force and an ultimate change in the governance of the system could help customers who are very frustrated?
Yeah, I'll start and then turn it over to the county executive. I think for us, this is a twofold thing, right? One, we know that over the past 2 years that water billing issues in the city have decreased significantly under Director Mitchell's work and initiative. In fact, one of the reasons why we, for the first time in a long time, our rate increase this year was below inflation is because we were actually properly collecting bills, right? That's the reality of how we were able to do that. But, Pam, to your question, when you are doing billing the way that we have been doing billing, in 2020, the same way that you were doing it in 1995, of course there are going to be issues. And when you talk about modernizing the system, for example, today, just now while we were sitting here, we put out that now folks who need assistance can actually do that for water bills via payment plans, something that you can do with every other jurisdiction in any other business or any kind of thing that you have across this world, but we weren't able to do that. This kind of modernization of a system, figuring out what's the best way to do that, how to appropriately do the billing, but more importantly, the infrastructure. Because we know that when you're talking about water billing, infrastructure is an important part of that conversation. We know how outdated infrastructure is, not just in Baltimore, in this country. We had the president here celebrating a big infrastructure investment. We know that we'll be going after infrastructure, more infrastructure investments into our water system, because that also, those small leaks that people have, the leaks outside of their home from a pipe that's been there since 1905, right? All of those things play a part in talking about billing, and this is one of the main reasons why we're coming together to modernize the complexity and the completeness of our water system.
And I'll just merge, frankly, Pam, your and David's questions a little bit. I mean, and we'll get you a copy of the legislation as well, but it really is a comprehensive look. It's not just governance, but it's also billing processes and infrastructure investments and business practices. I mean, our goal is to make this a modern, best-in-class utility structure that best serves our residents, that efficiently delivers the service, make sure that the water is clean and safe to drink, make sure that we have a system rooted in equity, that it's affordable, that's attainable for our residents, and in doing so, bringing it to the state. I mean, this system is rooted in an agreement that is codified in state law, and so it's not only old, but it's also codified in state legislation. So we believe it's important to have all of our partners at the table. And so by doing it in partnership with our delegation leaders, the rest of our delegation, with MDE and the Moore administration, with the jurisdictions all at the table, once we have that review and those recommendations, we'll be poised to act on them quickly. And that's the intention.
Thank you. County Executive, is it, once this is all done and you see the recommendations, I mean, is it your hope or your goal to move away from working with the city for the wastewater and the water treatment, or?
Not at all. I mean, we are connected in very important ways with the city, and probably in no way more important than our water and wastewater. We recognize walking into this that this is an incredible asset of the city. It is a city-owned asset. The county, however, also is responsible for funding the operations and the capital investments. And so we have an important stake in its success. And so again, I applaud the mayor for coming together to look at it, at what the best solution is, given those realities, that we have a system that is in recognition that this is a city asset. It's city-owned, but also finding ways to modernize all of the practices to ensure that we're delivering on all the things we've talked about today.
Mackenzie, I'll just add on that we've heard in the past about county executive and mayors been fighting over this issue and who should be responsible. This is not that. So anybody that thinks that the county executive and I are trying to have a tussle over who should own, who should operate, this is a shared thing. And we're looking at this and how do we do what hasn't been done since 1970, whatever. And that's actually modernize this infrastructure, this system for the best of everyone who drinks that water, who takes a shower in that water, who uses that, and when they're flushing their toilets at night. This is what this is about. Nothing more, nothing less.